Hey, 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 hey. Black excellence, black beauty, and black pride. Black power from all diasporas coincide. Progressive truth and regression eventually collide. May the beauty of the people no longer be set aside. May the black queen's grace continually mesmerize the millions who couldn't see it when looking into her eyes. And the black man's plight no longer be the disguise. Oppression, emasculation, they wanna castricize him. Take him away from the black queen, put him inside prison for slave labor, he institutionalized. Wondering on the outside, is she willing to ride? Is she willing to ride? Is she willing to fight for the love, even despite the fact that he doing time? Love that conquers all will never fade with time. If she don't choose the love that appreciates every life, his flame might get dim and he may eventually.
And we are live. We are live right here from the studio. What's up, Shekinah?
What is up, Robbie J?
What's up, girl? Hey.
Happy Black History Month.
Happy with you with your Love Joan braids.
And you know
what I'm saying?
Yes.
You know, looking
in
good.
the building.
Skin
Thank
looking
you.
all bronze. The sun came out.
I drink water and concealer. Thank you.
And concealer.
Fenty.
Yeah. Well, hey, everybody, welcome to the Urban Impact Show. I am one of your hosts, Rob Johnson.
I'm your favorite host, Shekinah Young.
She is definitely the favorite. And just like the title says, we are here to talk about the Iowa caucuses. To all thousands of the people that will be and that are watching this right now, we thank you so much for continuing to be strong supporters of ours for the Urban Impact Show. Our goal is to bring you stuff in our own way. You know, it's to, we get to watch CNN, Fox News, and all of that stuff, and they bring it their way, so we're going to bring it our way.
Right.
Today we have some special guests. And not in any particular order, but we are going to be bringing some people up to you because the Iowa caucuses come in tomorrow.
Yes.
Shekinah, the Iowa caucuses are tomorrow.
Yes, the Iowa caucuses are tomorrow. And in connection with the Iowa caucus, it is February. We know that this is Black History Month. The lovely Dr. Carter G. Woodson started Negro History Week in 1926 and amped that up to Black History Month in 1976. Why does this connect, Shekinah? Why is this even important? Because the Voting Rights Act of 1965. People have fought, people have died, and we often say that. They fought and they died and they've done all these things for rights of underrepresented groups in this country. But what we miss in that is they have won, right? They have won. And because they have won, we have rights.
That's right.
We have rights, we have opportunities and chances that people prior to us didn't have. And we have to fight apathy and always feeling like we're an effect of things that are happening in our community. And one huge opportunity that we have in the state of Iowa is Monday's caucus.
Monday's caucus.
So yes, we have to be ready for that.
Caucuses are coming up Monday. We have a special guest that's getting ready to come to us, and they are representing the Amy Klobuchar campaign. Huge shout out to my girl Mia Mayberry, though. Because,
shout out to Mia Mayberry.
Because honestly, with her being on the team, actually, yes, when we were trying to figure out who we wanted to invite, I was like, you know what, we got to get my girl Mia, and so let's make sure we reach out. And so we got Amy Klobuchar's Representative Ross Wilburn will be joining us here in just about 90 seconds. So we're going to take a quick little break, and when we come back, Brother Ross is going to be right here to represent Mrs. Amy Klobuchar. As a matter of fact, let me correct myself. Senator Amy Klobuchar.
Throw some respect on it,
Throw some respect on it.
We'll be right back. You watch the Urban Impact Show.
Let's do it. We are back. You're watching the Urban Impact Show. I'm one of your hosts, Rob Johnson.
And I'm Shekinah Young.
Shekinah Young. And we got the amazing, the talented, man,
the ever so committed to the community.
Yes, man. This brother has run for governor. He had, he was one of the first African American mayors in his town, and now he is a state representative for Ames.
Yes,
for Ames out there close to Iowa State. For those who don't know, and so we are super excited because he is representing U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota. Man, that's a tall order, man.
Absolutely.
The senator, she's coming off of the impeachment stuff, man. That's crazy. But I'm gonna throw it over to Shekinah, and she's gonna get us kicked off.
Right. Yes. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
I'm doing well. Good to see you. Good to be here.
Good to be. Thank you for coming. We appreciate it. So, tell us a little bit about who you are and where you are from and how you got into just interacting with community or your passion for community service, if you can, in like 30 seconds.
Well, let's see what we can do. So as Rob said, I'm the former mayor of the city of Iowa City. I was the first African-American mayor back in 2006. So.
Yeah.
It's a good thing, but
Yes.
it was just 2006.
Right.
And I work for Iowa State Extension and Outreach. I do diversity advising for them,
Okay.
and I'm also the Associate Director of Community Economic Development. So I'm a former youth worker, actually, and that's got me interested into community service,
Yeah.
civil rights, and economic justice, which is very important to me. And I did run for governor. It was I made it through didn't make it through the primary, but that helped set me up for the citizens of Ames to get to know me, and
Oh, cool.
they put me to represent them at the State House. And part of what's going on at the State House right now in terms of economic justice, in terms of criminal justice reform, as well as some health and mental health care issues, those are some of the things that attracted me to Senator Klobuchar's campaign.
Okay, cool. What sets your candidate apart from the others? We all know we started with about 10 million candidates,
Yep.
and now we're down to 1 million candidates. But what sets your candidate apart? Can you tell which of us is undecided here yet, guys? Can you tell?
That would be you.
That would be me.
Yeah.
Obviously not him, but Robert is definitely on board. But what sets your candidate apart?
Well, three things come to mind right away for Senator Klobuchar. One, that she has experience and real-time experience as a former county attorney at Hennepin County in Minnesota. So she's familiar with the criminal justice system, and I mentioned criminal justice reform is important to me, to my constituents, and especially people of color here in Iowa. But I think it's that executive experience at the local level. It's one thing to have experience running a business, that type of thing, but she has that accountability to the people.
Okay.
A second thing that sets Amy Klobuchar apart is that she's a sitting U.S. Senator, and not only a sitting, but an active one.
Okay.
Getting over 100 bills actually passed, and
Nice.
as a representative right now, I can totally appreciate the fact that she just knows how to get things done.
Yeah.
I had the good fortune to meet the mayor, first African-American mayor of the city of St. Paul, Minnesota, Mayor Carter, and the mayor of Duluth, Minnesota. And as a former mayor myself, I know for them that to have someone to both have that experience and to just get things done. Because as a mayor, a former mayor, the trash has to be picked up, the water has to be clean, and it's not that you just pass them and go home. When you go to the grocery store, when you go to your faith community, if you're a member, when you go for a walk in the park, your neighbors are right there. You've got to look them in the eye. And so she's done that effectively. And I think the third thing that really sets her apart is just the breadth of that experience. And it's being connected with the African American community and people of color is not new to her. She is focused on those issues, mental health care, on housing, clean water, jobs, child care. Again, as a former mayor and as a current representative, that's what Iowans are talking about. That's what Americans are going to talk about. It's going to affect and be a positive impact, not just for all Americans, but in particular for communities of color.
Well, Ross, speaking of that, talking about communities of color, a lot of times, statistically speaking, they have felt left out of this process, right? They have felt like they're not being engaged. So how is U.S. Senator Klobuchar's team engaging with these people who have felt like that they've been kind of left out of this process?
For me, it goes back to one of the primary reasons that I'm supporting her is voting and voting rights. And Senator Klobuchar knows that if you've got a disenfranchised public, people will check out, why should we vote? Why should we get involved? But, as someone who, something I actually have in common with her grandfather worked in coal mines. I have some relatives in Kentucky that worked in coal mines. And just to know and be familiar with some of those healthcare issues, that it affects people as it impacts their lives day to day. She got involved in the first place running for office because when she had her baby, there was a healthcare issue, and she had to get out of the hospital. They booted her out after 24 hours. And so one of the first things she advocated for was, let's lengthen that. And so in Minnesota, it became up to 48 hours. And then she pushed for that. That's now a national thing that folks, you've got to have a couple days.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that. Did you know that?
I didn't know that either.
Man, okay. So, looking at this stuff, right? Like, So you get a lot of Black Lives Matter, and my bad, Shekinah, I'm like...
No, out of order, it's fine. Rob doesn't follow the rules. I'm
like
here to make sure we follow the rules. It's fine, Robert, continue.
So looking at this thing, you know, Black Lives Matter has become like this really big thing, right? You know, it's this really big topic, and you have protesters showing up, Black Lives Matter, and stuff like that. I know we all believe Black Lives Matter. But beyond the scope of police brutality, like, what else are we doing to make sure that these lives truly do matter? And how is your candidate helping support that?
Absolutely. You know, I like the way you frame the question, because there's really two parts to it. Part of it is the criminal justice reform, and then the other piece is what are some of the opportunities, because Senator Klobuchar looks at both criminal justice reform. In fact, one of the first things that she said she will do when elected president is that she's going to put together you know, a panel that will look at some of the reform and clemency laws, which is, it doesn't require waiting for Congress. Is something that she can do right away. She has helped out with things like the Amnesty Project, which again gets at fairness and looking at reform in terms of you know, using body cameras and those types of things, training, professional development, and just knowing that you know, if you need to think beyond Black Lives Matter, you're missing the point of the movement. And so I know that she's familiar with that. But that second piece to that is creating economic justice, creating empowering us through voting rights, as well as those day-to-day issues, housing, childcare, education. By making those investments, not only are you helping out the African American community, people of color, but Americans of all walks of life. And which comes to another thing, is just how serious she is about this. $1 trillion investment in housing. Whether you are renting or a homeowner, you know, she knows that that stability in housing and not having you know, a large chunk of your income going to housing, it takes away from your ability to take care of your kids, to meet those health care needs, to live life, you know. Absolutely.
Has Senator Klobuchar, did I say that?
Klobuchar.
Senator Klobuchar, has she talked any about plans to help with the education system? I say that because a little bit of background just for everybody watching and for our conversation here. There have been some clearly noted disadvantages that we see is more probable in urban communities and communities of color, where students' scoring may not be on par with other communities. And there could be several factors that contribute to that, but that's something that we care greatly about the youth of today, because they are our future. And so are there any thoughts or plans in the works for that, or what are some things that she's saying about education?
Senator Klobuchar has said from day one, Betsy DeVos, the education secretary, has to go. She doesn't have
absolutely
the background. You know, she's not supported public education. She doesn't have awareness of what happens in public education. And Amy Klobuchar knows that public dollars need to go to support you know, public education. But it's beyond, you know, it's important in terms of the class sizes, be able to keep class sizes reasonable. It's making sure that teachers are being paid, and paid that, you know, we dishonor teachers and the profession of teaching by not paying them, and we dishonor students for having high quality teachers. You know, here in Iowa, our minimum wage is not where it needs to be, and surrounding states, well, Minnesota itself has $15 an hour minimum wage, and that helps lift wages across the board, especially with good union jobs and our union education association here in the state of Iowa. That is something that's really critical for reform across the board in our education system.
Awesome. All right, so we are down to our last minute.
Okay. Rapid fire time. Robert is serious now.
Boom. So, if this was your final pitch to the people watching this, who are getting ready, who are undecided, right?
Yes.
This was your final pitch to them. Your final last shot. This is the fourth quarter. 5 seconds left. You got to take this shot.
All right.
So, you pull back, you set your jumper. What do you say to them to tell them to go caucus for Amy tomorrow?
I say that just looking at her $1 trillion plan for housing, I mean, that that is huge. That's something that's going to cut across all races, all ethnicities. It's going to cut across socioeconomic to help Americans, to help Iowans right where we're at. It affects child care, your ability to pay for child care, your income. We just talked about being able to live life to the fullest. That's part of what she's done. She's got executive experience. She's got experience as getting things done with over 100 bills. She's laid out for the first 100 days things that she will do to make it happen for us.
I give her that. This isn't a shot to anybody else running, but she's been in the Senate since 2008, 2007, right?
A while.
Yeah.
And she's gotten 100 things passed.
Yeah.
And there's been somebody, I'm not saying no names, but there's been somebody who's been in there longer who has only had like.
Thank you so much for being our guest and talking to us. I definitely learned some things about the U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar that I didn't know before. And as an undecided voter, it's very helpful to have that information.
Yes.
Where can people go to get more information about her? They say that like 40-some% people are undecided. So where can me and the 40% of Iowans go to continue to get more information about her before tomorrow's caucus?
amyklobuchar.com. Google it. Come see people like me.
Okay.
And we're not here to talk down other candidates. We are here to lift up each other. And that's what Amy Klobuchar has done. She's reached across the aisle. She couldn't get those 100 bills passed without reaching across the aisle. So start where people are at and bringing people together to the table. And that's what you'll do. Welcome aboard.
Hey, listen, man, I'm trying to tell you, I got to get my head as smooth as Ross Wilburn's. I'm trying to tell you, intellectually and physically, man,
Yes.
Looking good. Hey, we thank you all for tuning in. Don't go nowhere. We'll be right back with some more people from other campaigns. We have Simone Sanders from the Biden campaign coming up, Cornel West from Bernie's campaign. We have Nina Smith from Pete's campaign, and we have Yang and Steyer and all of these people coming through today. So let's get ready and tune in. Thank you so much. You're watching the Urban Impact Show. I'm one of your hosts, Rob Johnson.
I'm Shekinah, Urban Impact Show.
Thanks so much.
Back.
Thank you, Ross. Good stuff.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you. You are watching the Urban Impact Show, and we are back. Today we're talking about the Iowa caucuses. It's Black History Month, y'all. Happy Black History Month. But also, we want to make sure that we are aware of our opportunities that we have to impact the world around us. And how do we do that? One great opportunity that we have is through the Iowa caucus process on Monday. So, you are registered to vote. You must be registered as a Democrat to caucus on Monday. If you do not know where you go to caucus, you go to your precinct. That may be a different location than your voting location because the precincts are broken up that way. You go to thecaucuses.org. Caucus is a funny word, so I'm going to spell that out. The Caucus, TheCaucus.org. Put in your info there and it will tell you your location to go and caucus. We have our next guest that we are going to talk to, and Robert is going to introduce our next guest.
Hey, check this out. So y'all know it's so important that the Urban Impact Show brings you everybody that we can. We always talk about being the show that wants to bring you the information about what's going on our way. And so with that being said, we just had Amy Klobuchar's representative come through. Now we have Mayor Pete Buttigieg's campaign coming through, and we have the lovely Miss Nina Smith, who is the National Press Secretary for Mayor Pete. And so basically what that means is her job is to make sure that she is on point at all times. On point at all times to make sure that Mayor Pete is on point at all times, by his side, making sure. And so to be this close to a top tier candidate is a heavy job. It's a lot, and trust me, there's things going on every single hour. Twitter is going off, Instagram is going off, Facebook. Not only that, you got the news, and it's her job to be the brains behind it all. So we are super, super grateful. Just like the last time, we want to shout out Lavana, who helped
who helped
set all of this up. So let me tell y'all something. Black women are killing it in these campaigns right now.
Let me tell y'all something. Black women been killing it in life.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Robert just started giving us shout outs yesterday.
First of all,
but it's cool.
Edit that part out. Edit that part out.
This is live. Sorry, Robert. Welcome to the show, Nina.
I'm so happy to be here. Amen to that point. But yeah, I'm really thrilled. This has been a fantastic campaign, and as you mentioned, just seeing the amount of Black folks who are involved in, in key positions across campaigns is really exciting to see, because a lot of us started out together as young staffers, and like to see the progress and where we're at now, it's incredible and really exciting. So
yeah. So we only have a limited amount of time with you, so let's jump straight into it, right? So tell us a little bit about you and kind of why you're supporting the candidate that you are.
Yeah. Okay. Well, as you mentioned, my name is Nina Smith. I am originally from the Washington, D.C. area, specifically Chocolate City, originally Prince George's County, or PG County as we refer to it, a majority Black suburb outside of D.C. And so always grew up around, in the middle of politics, both at the national level but also at the local level. Yeah. And just got really interested and involved at a very young age. Well, I've been in politics now for about 15 years and have worked with Maxine Waters, Martin O'Malley, and the Obama administration.
I was down for O'Malley in the
Auntie Maxine.
You're right, Auntie Maxine.
And it's been a wild ride, but I have seen a lot in politics, and Pete Buttigieg just represents something just completely different. It's what he's trying to bring to our country, to our nation, is something that I don't think has been seen before. With regard to that local view, being in Washington, bringing that perspective to the White House is going to be key, because we have some serious challenges ahead of us. Even, besides Trump, there are issues that our community is facing, and our nation's facing, and I think some of the things that we are seeing at the local level really need to be brought to Washington, D.C.
I think those are really good points. I'm taking notes too. Yeah. Robert may allude to you that I am an undecided voter, but me and about 40-some-odd% of our state are like, what do we do? And so I take my responsibility, or the opportunity that I've been given, to vote seriously. And so I will be there caucus night, and I'm just trying to get my life together. So taking notes.
It's a lot to take in.
I think that we've experienced a lot in past election cycles, the current climate of our country on a national level, even in local levels, and there are lots of people that may feel disengaged from the process. Right. Like, my vote doesn't really count. Why does this even matter? How people are incarcerated for marijuana type things, and now it's becoming legal, but yet the people who were downtrodden by it aren't benefiting from that. So they're just people that are seeing things happen and shift where it's not positively impacting them. How would you say that Mayor Pete is reaching out to those that may feel disengaged from this process?
I think that's part of the broader message of our campaign generally, right? We talk a lot about this notion of belonging, right? And it could be across a wide range of perspectives when you're thinking about that, right? So yeah, a lot of people tend to focus on how he talks about future former Republicans, but he's also talking about disaffected voters, right? Folks who have been taken for granted in this process, particularly Black folks, who show up, or sometimes we don't feel like we should show up because it doesn't feel like our vote actually counts. And once folks get into office, we do feel like we're forgotten, right? That our issues aren't prioritized and centered. And what I think is so important about Pete's campaign is that he is centering those issues, diving directly into some of the toughest conversations of our time when it comes to race, and facing it head on. And that's what we need to do, right? And if we're going to move forward, if we're going to actually achieve the sort of progress we need to be dealing with those issues and confronting the fact that, all of a sudden now that marijuana is legal, that we are not recognizing the retroactive damage that's been done to our community and how that needs to be rectified. Well, in the Douglas plan, we have, first of all, our marijuana policy is to legalize it at the federal level. And then secondly, to deal with a lot of the retroactive impacts of marijuana policy in the past and the war on drugs generally. And with an eye towards eventually decriminalizing marijuana possession, and recognizing that a lot of drug use is connected to it's a disease, you know? And so thinking about those things from a medical perspective rather than a punitive perspective is what our community needs, because we've been the most impacted.
Penalized, I agree.
You know, speaking of being the most impacted, Nina, I got to press you a little bit with your candidate. Black Lives Matter. We all know that Black lives definitely matter, right?
Yes.
We all matter.
Yes.
You know, this show is being produced by some good Black brothers back there. You know, shout out to y'all.
It's Black History Month.
Yes, Black History Month.
They got linings.
Talking about the linings. You know, I ain't got.
Linings are
I'm gonna get some hair one day. I'm gonna get some.
It's all right.
Work that out.
So, you know, beyond police brutality, right? Like, beyond that point, where is Mayor Pete, and how is he going to make sure that these people, like, that they understand beyond police brutality, that their lives actually do matter?
Well, I mean, I think that's the framework of the Douglas plan, right? I mean, part of the reason why we named the plan after Frederick Douglass was to showcase what the sort of challenge that he put to America, right? What is America? What does the 4th of July mean to us, right? And so thinking about those pieces, that's why the Douglas plan is comprehensive, but it takes very achievable, practical steps to dealing with issues, not just with criminal justice reform, but economic empowerment. We are creative. We are, you know, we have so many ideas, we have drive, and, you know, recognizing that a lot of times we're the ones that will hire our people for those jobs when we create those businesses. And so with the Douglas plan, there's a hefty investment on the venture capital side. We're putting up $10 billion to match private sector investment in Black-owned firms. We're talking about a commitment of at least 25% of federal contracting going to minority-owned businesses. We're talking about, you know, loan forgiveness pieces that would go towards Black-owned businesses. And so it's with those sorts of investments, both on that side, but also in our HBCUs. I'm an HBCU graduate.
Hey.
You know, I went to Morgan State University in Baltimore City, and, you know, you go to school and you're wondering about your prospects after school. You're wondering how to pay for school. There is an investment that we're going to make in HBCUs, understanding that we are producing the Black middle class. And if we aren't making the sort of investments that are necessary in maintaining those institutions and not allowing them to close on our watch, then, you know, we can get to where we need to be. So a lot of the principles that Black Lives Matter organizes around are influenced and a part of the Douglas plan and the work that we're trying to do, and even changing the conversation about race in this country, both not just with Black folks, but with white folks too. And that's why I really appreciate what this campaign is trying to do, because we constantly challenge ourselves in that regard.
That's exciting. Even if no matter who the nominee is, I would love to see something like that on a local level. I know as his jurisdiction now, or I'd imagine he still has political aspirations, even if that nominee thing doesn't work out. I'd love to see that in a city enacted or on a state level enacted, because these issues won't, no matter who the nominee is, these issues are present, and I'm happy to see that the campaign recognizes that it's beyond police brutality, but that goes into housing, that goes into education, that goes into the economy,
our everyday lives, right? Like,
it does.
How systemic racism touches every aspect of our daily walking life, but with the mind towards what the possibilities are, and that's what's so important, you know. And I'll also say that at the local level, he did take many steps. I mean, he instituted paid family leave. The minimum wage for folks working for the city was pushed closer to $15 than it hadn't been before. Putting a law on the books that set goals around minority contracting, because it did not exist before he was in office. And so the Douglas plan was based a lot on input from, because I also worked on the Douglas plan. It was based on input from folks, a lot of Black folks. It was also based on his experiences as mayor of South Bend and the challenges that he encountered as mayor, right? There was some progress that he was able to make, but there were also a lot of challenges. And thinking about the power of the presidency to change those things, I mean, imagine what we could do.
Right.
You know, I hear you guys talking about education. And, you know, HBCUs. Can you tell us again, what's that plan for HBCUs? How much is he looking to invest?
He's looking to invest $50 billion. And the fantastic aspect of it, at least in my mind, is the fact that that wouldn't just be like a straight investment and just like, you know, this particular program. It allows the schools to figure out how they want to spend that money and what that will look like. So it could be for buildings, right, and maintenance, but it could also be in expanding programs to recruit teachers into rural areas or Title I schools, or to recruit medical professionals and increase the amount of Black medical professionals, which directly cuts at the cultural bias and some of the disparities we see in our community. And so it's those sorts of administration-wide strategies that he wants to take as president that I think could be so huge for our community, but he needs to be in the White House for that to happen. And I have not heard a commitment from other candidates to take on a Douglas plan in order for them to address a lot of the issues that we're talking about. No one else has a comprehensive agenda.
That investment in education is really key. So I'm excited to hear that Mayor Pete and the campaign are interested in moving in that direction. Decision-making process. How would the campaign engage, or what's the plan to engage residents in the decision-making process? An example would be like President Obama and the health care bill, going around to different states to get people engaged in that. But what's the thought process with the Mayor Pete campaign on engagement?
I would say it was very similar to how we put together the Douglas plan. We consulted a number of different community leaders across the country, civil rights leaders, but we also did listening sessions. We did listening sessions in South Carolina. We did listening sessions in South Bend. We did listening sessions all over the country to try and get a sense of what people are feeling, thinking. What are they disappointed about? What would they like to see? What are their hopes, dreams, and aspirations? And what can we do on a practical level? What can government do to address those gaps and help help close them, actually? And so that model that we had is something that we would take beyond, you know, should we make it to the White House, you know? It would be definitely a communal, you know, citizen input process, right? Where everybody gets to have some sort of say, but you know, at the end of the day, we all come together and do what we need to do to get these things done.
Okay.
All right, so we're at our final end now and getting ready to wrap this up. Nina Smith.
Yes, sir.
It's the fourth quarter. 5 seconds left to go. And you get set, pull back to get ready to take your jumper. If this was your last pitch to these thousands of people that's going to watch this video on why, and majority of them undecided, this was your final last shot to get them, what do you say to them, or why they should be, when they show up to caucus, that they should show up in caucus for Mayor Pete? Hands down, give them their reason. Go.
So I've been saying it a little bit throughout our conversation, but frankly, we are at a period of time with the Trump presidency that we knew this was going to happen, right? But we've been most impacted. We're the ones that, you know, when it comes to our daily lives, the vitriol we're seeing, the angst, the tension, we feel it, right? We feel it on a mental health level, on a physical level. It manifests that way with us. And so the choice is consequential, very much so. And knowing that, when it comes to winning these elections over the last 50 years, there have been certain commonalities that have always remained present. One is that the person elected represented a new generation. Secondly, they did not come from Washington. They came from outside of Washington. And, you know, they basically, it was an unexpected win, right? And I'm looking at Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton, and Barack Obama. Over the last 50 years, those have been the Democratic nominees that have gone on to win the White House. And so thinking about those pieces and those headwinds, Pete represents that sort of generational change that we need. He also has a track record of getting things done in tough circumstances, when you don't have a state to support you, when you don't have that much revenue to work with. He got scrappy and he got things done. And we need a leader in the White House willing to take these conversations straight on with the plan that is achievable and real, that can impact and change the trajectory of what we experience on a day-to-day basis. And I think there's no time like the present to support a candidate and, vote for a candidate who is going to bring that sort of change. I know we have, seen that or been there, done that, and I know there's a lot of cynicism, but there's still reason to hope. If a jaded political strategist for been in this game for about 15 years can be inspired by a candidate, can see a better future for all of us through a candidate, we can all feel that. And I do hope that you all feel that, because that's what we need. We don't need anybody to BS us. We need people who are going to be straight with us, who are going to promise things and deliver on them. And that is what we can expect from Pete Buttigieg. He'll never make a promise he can't keep.
How can we get more information about Mayor Pete?
You can visit PeteForAmerica.com. Check us out there. We're also on the socials. So we're on IG. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. And you can check out and get updates from us regularly there. PeteForAmerica.com has all of our plans, which also include and touch on racial disparities in different areas, whether it's rural broadband and expand. We're about to invest $85 billion in rural broadband and expand that access to Wi-Fi. We just have so many different plans that will benefit the Black community in a very, again, real way. And could change the trajectory of our community going forward.
Man, sounds good. Sounds good. Any final things, Shekinah?
No, I think it was a pleasure talking with you and hearing all about Mayor Pete's plans and the campaign and how he wants to move forward. I think you are the bomb.com.
Oh,
let's give it up for our girl Nina.
Yeah.
So they're giving it up in the hallway too. But you are watching the Urban Impact Show. We are talking about Iowa caucusing. People have fought, people have died, and they have won for us to have this opportunity. Take this very seriously. If you do not know where you need to go, iowacaucuses.org. That's, I think, no, it's the Caucuses. God dog it, I didn't look at my notes. Thecaucuses.org. Put in your address. They'll tell you where your precinct is. And if you are like me, undecided, keep watching the Urban Impact Show. We have more guests to help us get more information about these candidates so that we can make a very important decision Monday.
Yo, you're watching the Urban Impact Show. Let's go.
90 seconds.
And we are back.
He's so dramatic, y'all. Yes, we are back.
We are back. Shekinah, listen, man, you being an undecided voter is like so crucial right now, because a lot of people don't know that in the Iowa caucuses you can actually caucus for undecided.
You can, which my personal opinion is that is a waste of my time. I am not going to come to I'm not going to stop what I'm doing, come to an event, get registered, wait in line to go in there and just to say I'm undecided. I want to, choose one of these lovely people. So if you just tuned in, this is the Urban Impact Show. We are talking about Iowa caucusing. It's Black History Month. We're celebrating that always, 365 Black. But
365 Black.
Just keeping it real. But we're talking about the opportunity that we have, that our ancestors and our forefathers fought and won for us to have this opportunity to vote and to engage and be involved in how our communities are shaped and formed moving forward. And so we visited with a state representative, Ross Wilburn,
yes,
who was supporting U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar.
Yes.
Learned all about some plans and ideas that she has coming forward. Then we talked with Miss Nina Smith, and she is representing Mayor Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah, she's the national press secretary, so she is the highest ranking African American on the press side. And then you got
I like Miss Nina. She's
Hassani
nice.
Pratt, who is the National Director of Engagement. So she's the highest ranking African American on the engagement side of the campaign. So there are some very powerful black women representing and with seats at the table for these national campaigns.
Yeah, which is a big deal, you know? And so just, what was the most interesting thing you heard from each of those folks?
I would say with Klobuchar, finding out that she got kicked out of a hospital 24 hours later.
Yeah.
Was
after she gave birth.
After she gave birth was crazy.
Yeah,
to me,
I thought that was pretty crazy too.
Crazy to me.
And Ross Wilburn was just saying that spurred her passion for healthcare and to be talking about those things because she lived an experience like that and felt that that was extremely unfair and didn't want that to come off to anybody else. What about from Nina?
So I thought Nina did a great job representing Mayor Pete, and she really brought out his plan on his agenda for African Americans, right? And I think that that's good. Like if you're running a national campaign, African Americans make up a major part of the electorate when it comes to at least the Democratic Party, and so our power is there if we decide to take it. And when we do decide to take it, we want to make sure that somebody is going to be there to help represent us, right? And that there is an agenda for making sure that our babies are not dying in the streets any longer, that we're able to help educate our babies, that we're able to help get economic development for our communities. One thing you always say, you're a very big component on stopping the revolving cycle of poverty. Right? And so I think looking at their plan, that their plan is what they're hoping to use to help stop that cycle of poverty. Right? She mentioned, we're trying to produce more upper and middle class African Americans with HBCUs, and so I think making sure that we fund those universities and colleges is very key. Yeah,
I have never heard. Specifically when talking about Nina as our guest, I'd never heard Mayor Pete's plan as it relates to the African American community so clearly stated. Or I've never heard information about him that I felt like connected very well with things that I wanted to hear about. It wasn't just like a broad general statement. So I thought that that was very valuable talking to her, as well as State Representative Ross Wilburn. I didn't know that either about U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar being kicked out of the hospital. I also didn't know that she had gotten over 100 bills passed.
Yes.
Is that what he said?
Yes, she did.
Like an active U.S. senator. Like, she's doing work.
Yeah.
She's putting in work. I think that's really important to note.
And she's got them passed with a Republican-controlled Senate.
Right.
That's not an easy task.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. So I think that's really... that was very informative. It's been very clear. I have heard before that the Klobuchar campaign was very clear on Betsy DeVos, our current Secretary of Education, would be asked to leave. That's the nicest way I can say that. Would be asked to leave given an Amy Klobuchar presidency, and I think that's definitely the way that we need to go as a country.
Now, I do want to mention this because we have people that watch our show that are, they're Trump supporters.
Yeah.
So I want to be very clear. We're not here to push an agenda of a Democratic thing or a Republican thing or an independent thing. We're not here pushing that agenda. What we are here pushing is information agenda.
Right.
Right. We want you to be educated on that agenda, so that when you go to caucus, so when you do show up, that you're armed with all the information possible to make sure you're making an informed decision.
Right.
Our job here is not to tell you who to go caucus for, who to support.
Even though I feel like Rob be pushing a specific candidate on me. But
that's just you because you're my sister.
When we turn on the cameras, he tries to water that down a little bit for you all.
Hey, how you gonna let this just?
Yes,
just
because it's a
like
fact.
This?
Facts are facts.
How you gonna?
I think Rob brought up a really good point. If you are Republican, if you are Libertarian, if you choose not to vote, at the end of the day, we all need to work together to have an improved community. Because if there's an issue with the economy, it doesn't only impact Republicans. It doesn't only impact Democrats or Libertarians. It impacts all of us. There's an issue with education, all of us. So we have to figure out how we can work together to create a better world for ourselves, but also the youth of the next generation. We are going to take a quick 90-second break. You are watching
90 seconds.
Right, and it probably wasn't.
Please
it's not my
bear
fault
with
that it wasn't
us.
90 seconds. It's Rob's fault. But a quick 90-second break.
This whole show she been throwing me out there.
Yes, the whole one. A quick break. I'm not going to say 90 seconds. I don't want to promise that. We're just going to take a quick break, and we are going to have our next guest.
Yes. So tell your friends, tell everybody, we have the infamous Dr. Cornel West getting ready to grace us with his presence in the studio. One of the most black intellectuals that we know and of our time. And so we're super excited to have him come join us. So we'll be right back.
Right back.
We are back with the Urban Impact Show. I am one of your hosts, Rob Johnson.
And I am your favorite host, Shekinah Young.
Now, Shekinah, you've been throwing me under the bus this whole show.
I'm sorry.
We're going to have to discuss that.
We do. I haven't had my water intake in my bed. I'm kind of hungry, so I'm a little hangry. I shouldn't blame Rob for last night. I love Rob dearly. He's my favorite little brother. But we are talking about the Iowa caucuses today.
Yes,
and
we
how
are.
we have a responsibility. People have fought and died and won for us to have the opportunity to impact what is going on in the world around us, how our tax dollars are used. So we have a very special guest joining us today.
Man, let me tell y'all right now, I am super excited for the guest that we have right here in the studio with us. If you haven't heard of him, his name is Dr. Cornel West.
If you live under a rock.
Because he's probably one of the most well-known intellectuals in our country right now.
Yeah.
This man has been politically active. He is no stranger to Des Moines. As a matter of fact, I have a picture with you when you came to Drake. When we were students at Drake. This was a few years ago.
Was it NAACP banquet?
I can't remember.
I think you came for that a couple years ago too.
Yep. So he's
frequent flyer miles to Des Moines.
He's no stranger to that. You know, he's definitely accompanied by my girl Victoria Moon.
Shout out to Victoria
and my homeboy Stacy.
All right, Stacy.
Cedar Rapids.
DU in the building.
Today is Stacy's birthday.
Happy birthday.
Stacy.
Union represent.
Right.
Stacy out there representing Lynn County. You know.
All right.
Cedar Rapids is in the building.
Big thing.
And so we're super excited. So Dr. Cornel West has been on CNN, MSNBC. So all of your news channels, he's graced his presence on those channels, talking about Black lives, talking about why these lives matter, and talking about what we can do, not just him as an individual, but collectively as a community. My mother, before she passed, she bought like 3 of Cornel West's books, and you know, I remember growing up in Chicago, Shekinah, and him being at Rainbow Push, at Rainbow Push Coalition.
Right.
I remember the panel very vividly. It was Dr. Cornel West, Eric Dyson, Judge Mathis, and Jesse Jackson.
Right.
And it had fellow state senator at the time, Barack Obama. I'll never forget that panel over there on South Shore, over there on the South Shore Culture Center. I'll never forget being there, and I was 15.
How old were you, Rob?
I was 15 at the time, and they all sat on that panel and they talked about what we can do as a community to help build each other up.
Yes. So, Dr. West, we're going to jump into some questions quickly here. What do you think sets your candidate apart from the other candidates that are currently seeking the nomination?
Well, first, I just want to say it's a blessing to be here. I want to salute both of you all.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Both
Wes.
of you all for the work that you're doing. You're keeping alive the great legacy of Charles Howard Sr. of Drake University, class 1920, the lawyer for Paul Robeson and W.E.B. Du Bois.
I know that's right.
Okay, now.
You write that
Founder
down.
of the National Bar Association. He was there with Sister Gertrude Rush, who was also a freedom fighter coming right out of Iowa.
Wow.
So all I come to do is just be true to Brother Charles.
Yes,
All right.
sir.
I want
Brother
to be
Charles.
true to Sister Gertrude right here in Iowa, you see.
Right.
sir.
And that's, of course, just being true to the best of what is going in the shaping and molding of each and every one of us. So anytime we come to electoral politics, politics, you know that most electoral politics, you know, is so dumbed down, it's colonized, it's dominated by big money. It's hard to get candidates through who have any integrity. Most of them bought off, most of them well adjusted to injustice and well adapted to indifference. So when it comes to the plight of poor people, working people, and especially when it comes to the plight of poor and black people and brown people, electoral politics just doesn't have a whole lot to offer. That's why the biggest party in the country is the party that doesn't participate at all. You got 51% of U.S. citizens don't participate at all. So the question becomes, how do we present them with somebody and a candidate who's going to speak to poverty, going to speak to white supremacy, going to speak to black supremacy, going to speak to the new Jim Crow, and is going to bring critique to bear on Wall Street criminality and Wall Street greed. That's what Brother Bernie Sanders is all about. And that's why the establishment in the Democratic Party is after him. That's why the establishment on Wall Street is after him, because he is concerned with precisely the thing that Brother Martin Luther King Jr. was concerned about when he died. Remember, Martin said there's 4 things: racism, militarism, materialism, and poverty. He wanted to be an abolitionist. He wanted to abolish poverty. So therefore, Medicare for all is a way of making sure everybody got access to quality health care. When you talk about free tuition for public colleges, everybody who wants to go to college can go. Access to decent housing and making sure they have jobs with a living wage. So that somebody like Brother Bernie Sanders, he's once in a lifetime in terms of a candidate who is concerned about poor and working people and in fact has a chance of winning. We haven't had that since Jesse Jackson in '84. Everybody knew Jesse wasn't going to win, but he was on the move, you see. And you need to have politicians, when they get up there, that they're willing to stand up. You see, you got to have backbone. See, if you love black people, you know, you can't be mamby-pamby. You can't be Disneyland-like. You see what I mean? You got to be willing to throw down. You got to be willing to take a strong stand and be unpopular, but hold on to your integrity once you're there. That's Brother Bernie Sanders.
Perfect. Thank you for that.
You know, Dr. West, I want to, if you wouldn't mind, you know, there's a lot of criticism about your candidate. You know, like people are like, oh man, you know, how are we going to pay for this? How are we going to get this stuff done?
How are we going to pay for this?
Get off the
crack pipe.
How is he going to work with others? How is he going to work with others?
Get off the crack pipe. You heard it here.
How do you respond to that?
Oh shoot, when the American empire goes to war, they spend $1.6 trillion just in a couple of years in Iraq. They spent even more than that in Afghanistan. When it comes to going to war, they ain't no worried about what they pay for that. How come when it comes to poor children, they got to raise that question? How come when it comes to black people, they got to raise that question? How come when it comes to working people, you got to raise that question? You see what I mean? When it came to Wall Street, they stole all that money. How many Wall Street executives went to jail? Not one.
Right.
You got some of the biggest gangsters in the country on Wall Street, but let Precious Jamal and Letitia get caught with a crack bag. They're going straight to jail. That's how racist and ugly our criminal justice system is. So that when I hear the folk on TV talking about, how you gonna pay for that? I said, kiss my so-and-so.
Right.
You got the wrong priorities. For them, war is a matter of national insecurity. National security. For me, poor people's situation is a matter of national security.
All right.
For me, working people not having enough access to resources, that's a matter of national security. For me, mass incarceration with all of our precious young brothers and sisters going to jail, often for non-violent crimes, that's a matter of national security. So it's a matter of the priority. This is what Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and Fannie Lou Hamer said. We got to revamp and revolutionize our priorities.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So it should be, when we go to war, how we going to pay for it? When it comes to poor people, you got to raise that question. You got access to it. You got all the taxes, tax evasion, and the Cayman Islands, and so forth and so on. All that money hemorrhaged at the top. And then we're going to fight for crumbs, and they're going to say, how you going to pay for it? That's the corporate media with the narrow, truncated, deodorized framework. We come from a people of funk masters. And the funk masters get at the suffering and the freedom. That's Bootsy. That's James Brown. That's George Clinton. You get at the funk. And the funk got all that love in it, but it got a lot of blood in it too. You see what I mean? And that's the history of black people at our best. I'm not talking about the black folk who are well adjusted to the empire.
You dropping gems today. Every day, huh? We got front row seat to the jewelry
Urban
store.
Impact Show just ain't any show. Let's just be honest about it.
I'm taking
What's your
notes.
producer's name?
Hal Dixon.
Brother Dixon, he know what I'm talking about. Oh, yeah.
There are lots of people that feel disenfranchised from voting period. They feel like, why should I go vote?
Right.
I participated in previous elections. I don't see anything different happening. It's a different face. Same name, same game. We are talking about legalizing marijuana, but my people are greatest impacted, and we're not recipients of the legalization of that. We're not benefiting from that. What do you say on behalf of Bernie Sanders to those people? How do we get them engaged? What's the message from the campaign to those people that feel like nothing's going to change? This isn't for me. Apathy has taken over.
No, it's a wonderful question, because you always have to be honest with the people. You
right.
Respect the people. You got to love the people. When you love folk, though, you protect, respect, and correct. See, love ain't just cheerleading. Everybody knows they've been in love. If all you're doing is cheerleading, your relationship's about gone.
She's kind of been correcting me for a while.
You want to
because I love you, right? It's just so much love. It's just so much love.
That's right. That's right.
Protect, respect, and correct.
Absolutely. So it is when we tell people, you say, it's true. Most of the politicians out there are tied to big money. Most of the politicians don't have the profound convictions of changing the world. They want to reproduce their careers. So you got to be honest about that and tell people, when you do have a candidate who comes along, who has been willing to cut against the grain, that's Brother Bernie, then you tell him, lo and behold, you got a real choice here. But they also have to look at the flip side. See, we got a gangster in the White House, dead up to the core. Dead up to the core. Just manipulate, dominate, lie, do anything to reproduce his power and domination.
Yeah.
And so if you completely give the electoral political system to somebody else, you end up with a fascist regime. And fascism is the rule of big money, big military. It is deeply racist. It is sexist. It is profoundly homophobic, and it believes that we should dominate the world on our terms rather than treat other people in Africa, in Asia, in Europe, in Latin America like human beings. And that's what you have with Trump right now, you see. And so with Trump, you have an escalating neo-fascism. And so people have to wake up. And if they don't want to vote, I think they should vote for Bernie, but if you don't want to vote, then hit the streets, organize. Right. Make sure your church has got a prison ministry. Make sure your churches are concerned with poor people. Your mosques, your synagogues, your fraternities and your sororities and your dance clubs and your athletic networks. You see, we black folk, ever since we've been here, we've been suffering from too much poverty, not enough self-love.
So, Dr. West, can you speak a little bit to Bernie's education plan? Right, like we hear the get rid of student loans. We hear rid of free college. Right. We hear this, right? And we also understand that African Americans have, statistically speaking, have been underrepresented in the education population, and in areas, I can only talk about Chicago. In areas like Chicago, you have the South Side, where Shekinah and I grew up, who not educating those kids as well as they're being educated on the north side of Chicago. Right. Can you speak a little bit to how Bernie is planning on to balance this out so that we can make sure that our babies are going to be able to compete globally just like they're making sure everybody else's babies are? Well,
I mean, one is that first you have to really fundamentally believe that every child got the same value and significance, and that's not the case in America. See, in the white supremacist civilization, a black child doesn't have the same value as a white child. Therefore, we got to be more vigilant in terms of ensuring that black kids have access to resources. They got to have access to those things that are required for them to be able to live lives of decency and dignity. So that means we got to bring a whole lot of pressure to bear. When we speak, we got to put a spotlight on it. When we organize, we got to put a spotlight on it. What Bernie Sanders is saying is he's going to ensure that his support for high quality public education is intense so that private education will not suck up all the resources. Because right now, private education tends to be an education that tilts towards the rich. And the rich end up with quality education. You got 14 kids in their class and teachers telling them every day they brilliant, whether it's true or not. Somebody keep telling you brilliant every day of your life, you're going to end up trying to do something brilliant.
And be brilliant,
Exactly. So that self-confidence kicks in, you see. So that's precisely the kinds of conditions that Brother Bernie wants for every child, especially poor and working children. And that's why he's highly suspicious of the charter movement. He's highly suspicious of privatized education, and he's certainly highly suspicious of private schools getting public funding, because that money must go to our precious poor and working class kids. Now, granted, the kids need more than that. You got to have families that have jobs, families themselves that are stronger, communities that are stronger. We got to push out the drugs. We got to push out the guns. We got to give our young people other venues of expressing their creativity and their genius and their talent. When they get into the studio, they geniuses. Well, they can be geniuses in the laboratory.
You're right.
They can be geniuses in the courts, too. But our system is designed in such a way that so much of our talent is pushed into entertainment and the sports. And I ain't got nothing against that, because I appreciate genius and talent expressing itself in a lot of different ways. But the whole structure is such that we got to allow that black talent of young people to flow across the board. So we can have Jay-Z's and Beyonce's in the freedom movement, in law, in medicine, in doctor, being a doctor, but focus on poor people. Now, you know, Jay-Z and Beyonce, I love them to death. Both of them geniuses. You see, but they're not always focusing on poor folk, even though Coachella she was, so we won't get into that right now. Oh, she threw down with Coachella. But Jay-Z,
you have heard it here. Dr. West knows
brother
about Beachella.
Lord,
He's down. Lord,
Queen B, but we lost the queen in Aretha, though. Y'all know that.
Yes, sir. Much respect.
Jay Hood's getting ready to do a movie about her. About Aretha.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I didn't know that either.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I think that is.
That's gonna be hard though. You got to do it right. You can't be messing around with my Aretha. Now I tell you that right. Don't be messing with Aretha.
I was in the movie theater getting ready to watch Just Mercy.
Okay.
Oh yeah, Brother Brian.
And the preview for it came on, and when Jay Hood got done singing, before the movie came on, I stood up in my seat, started clapping.
Is that right?
in the movie,
that's good,
in the movie,
no, that's
in the movie theater, everybody turned around looking at me. I said, "What? That's Aretha."
Oh,
that's right.
You better show some respect.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. Oh, no, nobody like Aretha. Oh, that's like Coltrane, Curtis Mayfield. Curtis Mayfield, Chicago.
Yes,
yes, sir.
Oh,
yes,
sucky, nah. That's genius right there, coming out of Chicago.
One last question as far as Bernie Sanders' plans or the campaign and how they're going to interact with the community decision-making process. Is there talk about the Sanders campaign involving, like, doing public outreach for decisions that are made, like the healthcare bill and how Obama went around to different states trying to engage them in the healthcare bill? What does that look like with the Sanders presidency?
You know, we are blessed to have a visionary leader in our dear sister Senator Nina Turner. She has been on the case probably more than anybody else, working very closely with Brother Bernie Sanders. And she's going to hit the road. Danny Glover's going to hit the road. I'm going to hit the road. Killer Mike's going to hit the road. We got a whole wave of folk who are willing to push Medicare for all, because the pharmaceutical companies and the private industry companies, they coming for our necks. They're making billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars that we want to use to provide quality for poor and working people across the board. So this is a serious struggle. Anytime you're talking about people's money and financial interests, it's a serious struggle. And so, yes, we're going to be out there hitting the road just like, you know, I'm out here right now. I'm blessed to be here in Iowa. I got to teach in the morning. Catch my plane. I can't fly back on 80. But I'm be right back out here. Ain't no doubt about that.
Now, you're teaching college, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. What's the name of your course?
I'm teaching a class on Introduction to Afro-American Studies. We read W.B. Du Bois, Lorraine Hansberry, James Baldwin, read Malcolm X. But we also listen to a whole lot of John Coltrane and Mahalia Jackson and Donny Hathaway.
Do they offer that online? We need to get through that.
We need to get that class.
Tell them upgrade you. Put you on the internet.
Lord, no, you would think Harvard got the money to do it, but we going at Harvard too. Harvard's part of the ruling class too. You got to be honest about that.
Dr. West, you know, there are about 40-some% of Iowans currently that are undecided.
Correct.
Our caucus is in 27 hours. The process will start. I am one of those people that are undecided. So what would you say to people as like your last message? Ralph has his whole little Hail Mary pass.
Listen,
5 seconds on the
it's
clock.
It's the fourth quarter, Dr.
You
West.
yelling Kobe.
It's 5 seconds on.
What are you going to say?
Pull your jumper back and let's take your shot.
I'm going with LeBron. I'm going with LeBron. Bring in some Ohio here. But
Shout out to LeBron.
No, but the thing is, we go back to Martin Fannie Lou Hamer.
Okay.
Poverty, racism, sexism, militarism, materialism. Which candidate speaks to those issues? Does Joe Biden focus on poverty? No, that's like saying I love bluegrass. I'm into jazz and funk, right? Mm-hmm. Does Sister Amy focus on poverty? No, that's saying my favorite group is the Beach Boys rather than the Whispers, right? Mm-hmm. Do any of the candidates really focus on issues of poverty? Concerned about wealth inequality. Mm-hmm. Brother Pete, he's brand new. He's a very talented brother. That's not a major priority. Mm-hmm. Bernie Sanders has been talking about this for 50 years. Longevity of integrity, consistency, unbelievable constancy. And therefore, when you go into the booth, you say to yourself, who can beat Trump? You got to have somebody who can generate energy and enthusiasm to beat Trump. Can't have no milquetoast neoliberal out there acting as if they're going to generate some energy and they're just another bureaucratic elite. You can't do it. Mm-hmm. You got to have an army out there. Yeah. People who are willing to fight. People who have fire. Mm-hmm. You see? And so that's what people ought to think when they go into the in the caucus. I wish I could do it because I've broken the law on many occasions. I'd go in the caucus and vote too if I could get away with it. But I can't. I can't. So I'm gonna hold off an hour. Yeah. But I would be doing that. But I wouldn't be doing that just for a candidate. You see, this is not so much about the candidates. Mm-hmm. The candidate's just a means toward trying to speak to the suffering that's out there. Yeah. The social misery of our brothers and sisters who are poor and in working class situations. That's the issue. It's the primacy of what is moral. And I'm a Christian. So it's the primacy of what is spiritual. What you do to the least of these, you do unto me.
All right.
The prisoners, the poor, those catching hell. That's my tradition. Yeah. You see what I mean? And I'm just trying to be true to my tradition. But you know what? I got to catch this plane.
Right. We got to get you out of here, too.
Love you.
Real quick, Dr. West, if my mother was alive, she would say I have made it since I've had the chance to sit down and talk with you. Thank you so much.
Your mother, though. And let me say this about your mama, brother.
Yes.
That part of her afterlife is manifest in your life and what you're doing on this show.
Absolutely.
With this dear sister. And you never forget that. Never. Because the highest standards we have is putting a smile on our mamas and daddies' faces from the grave. Don't ever forget that. All the glitz and the blitz in the present is sounding brass and tinkling cymbal don't mean nothing if you can't put some joy in your mama's heart when she's alive or from the grave. So she's smiling at you.
Amen.
Don't ever forget that.
Yes.
Oh, indeed.
You have heard it from Dr. West. Put a smile on your mama's face and go caucus tomorrow. We are going to be back in 90 seconds. You're watching the Urban Impact Show.
You're watching.
You are so kind. Oh, you're so kind.
And we are back with the Urban Impact Show. Man, Shekinah. We just had Dr. Cornel West.
Yes, he is brilliant. He really is. Dropping gems. This was definitely a jeweler. Okay? It's like you ask us questions, obviously. This is he was good stuff.
This dude is amazing. Hey, so we got the manager of the show, Brother Will Sims, in the building.
Hey, what's up, Urban Impact viewers? Good to see you. Good to see you.
So, for those who don't know, Will has graciously traveled with me all over the place. I mean,
definitely.
Shekinah, we've gone. Facebook told us we went to 50 places? 50 places. And that's just the places we tagged.
Right, yeah.
So, for those who don't know, William Sims was born right here in Des Moines, Iowa. He's been here his entire life. What high school did you go to?
Hoover High School. Go Huskies.
All right, Huskies.
All right.
All right.
And Will has been a follower of politics his entire life. So, Will, what we want is we want your analytical mind to kick in and just kind of give us what your thoughts of this election, kind of what you see, what you're feeling, and also, you know, you've been the Iowa caucuses helped launch Jimmy Carter, Barack Obama, right? And you've been here through all of that, and so, you know, just kind of give us your take on what's going on and how you feel and why people should participate tomorrow.
Well, I think what's going on, we have a really, really tight race between about 4 or 5 candidates, but there's a lot of voters that are undecided because there are so many candidates out there, and a lot of the candidates are nearly not capturing the imagination like a Barack Obama did, or, you know, or say a Jimmy Carter or a Reagan. So there's, you know, there's like, you know, there's upwards of 40% of people who are undecided. It's like people come to me and said, like, Will, I'm undecided. Yeah. You know, I've talked to a lot of people I know, my friends have messaged me, they called me and said, like, who do I caucus for? They don't know. It's like there's so many candidates still left in the race, and, you know, then there's at the top, there's kind of a bunch at the top, you know, and then you have a lot of people undecided. So a lot of people are probably going to decide when they walk in tomorrow, because like there's, you know, so many candidates. And so
are you decided, Will?
Yeah, I've decided.
You've decided? Okay, so Robert has decided.
Yes.
Will has decided. Shekinah has received lots of information.
Yes.
Is not yet decided. Shekinah, I have a thought. I have a strategy, though. I do have a strategy in mind.
Do you think you're undecided because there's so many people in the race? Like, if it was down to 2 people, if it was down to just 2 individuals right now that you could caucus for, do you think you would still be undecided? Or do you think you're undecided because there's freaking 11 of them?
I don't think I'm undecided because of the number.
Okay.
I think that I'm undecided because this point in our country, we have some essential things that are needed. Yes. And I am concerned about, if the needle does not move on some of those things, what that future looks like. Yeah. And I hear lots of plans. I hear lots of rhetoric around things, and not only am I feel like now voters have to decide whose plans align with what you think or feel is best for the country, but also who's suited for the long game. You know, like, we're trying to win the battle and the war, you know? And so my thought process is not very simple. I did go to, was it the Washington Post? I think it was Washington Post, where they had the little...
The Match.com thing?
It wasn't Match.com. What is going on? No. They had...
political quiz?
Yes, they match with your candidate.
Yeah, I call it the Match.com political candidate.
Right.
I thought that was really helpful, though. So if you go to the Washington Post, they have where you can answer survey questions, and they tell you which candidate lines up with your view. And as you go along, then you get finished. I think it's 20 questions. As you go along, it tells you, as you go, how many candidates are lined up with you. Like, you may be in line with, I don't know, Amy Klobuchar for most of them. And so they say she's your first pick, and you have a second pick, and others. I thought that was really informative, and you can click to get more information or not. But to me, it's bigger stakes. I don't know if that's because I'm younger and I haven't lived through different presidencies that I felt like the stakes were so huge, but I feel like we got some dire needs going on right now.
So right now, people can caucus for Bennett, for Biden, Buttigieg, Tulsi, Klobuchar, Sanders, Steyer, Warren, or Yang.
Yang.
And so with all of these people, you know, people have the opportunity to caucus for, right? And a lot of people say that Joe Biden is the safe candidate, and if you go with Joe, you're just going with Joe because, you know, Joe is the safe candidate. As a matter of fact, I believe there's a strategist on MSNBC that was just saying, if 40% of people are undecided, when they walk in, they're gonna go with what feels safe to them, and that leans more heavier to Joe Biden. But if they go in with a candidate in mind, then it'll probably more so favor somebody like Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, or Pete Buttigieg, right? I do think that Klobuchar has put in a lot of work. right? You know,
yes, she has.
She's put in a lot of work, and also when it comes to people of color, I think black folk look to, like, I want to support somebody that's gonna win, right?
Yeah.
Like you hear a lot in the churches, people say, you know, we want to rock with somebody that we think gonna win. And so when it comes to this, I think being educated about who these people are, what they stand for, is definitely key. But also, you have to, I like what Cornel West said, you have to look within and figure out which one best suits you. And that Washington Post, it helps you figure out, because you're not looking, you're answering questions based on you. You're not answering questions based on them. You're answering questions based on you. And so it helps you figure out from your point of view who's better suited with you. And with so many people in the race, man, that's a lot.
I think it's nice to have options. I don't have any complaints about so many people being there. I just want to hear things addressed and know that there's follow through and see a past of you following through on these values and purposes. Will, what do you say to your friends, or the 40-some-odd% like me that are undecided, that not necessarily trying to push them in a specific direction, but encouraging them to caucus? What do you tell them?
I encourage them to go caucus. I mean, this is your voice. This is a very important election. I mean, even if you can't decide, you can caucus uncommitted as well. So, like, you don't have to go in there with a candidate. But I encourage people just to go, but, like, try to look at the candidates' websites. Try to look at some material online. Try to find things that about them, because, like, you gotta, if you want to go in there and you want to caucus a specific candidate, you gotta find out about them. But I encourage people just to caucus, especially black folks, especially Hispanics, Native Americans, immigrants, people who have been underrepresented, because caucus is tendency to have white, voters. So I just encourage them just to go.
Yeah,
I think
presence matters.
Yes,
it definitely does, and I think that's a really important part of this that you don't hear people say. It's a mathematical game, right?
It is.
If lots of women show up, then the next candidate that's running for something sees that I need to engage with women.
Yep.
I need to meet the needs of women.
Yep.
And so those people become important or more core in that messaging. Imagine what will happen if the urban community shows up.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
You show up in droves and numbers, they know we are held accountable to this community.
Yep.
It's like who signs your check.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, we got to go to them. So,
thecaucuses.org is where you go to get information about where your caucus location is.
Yes. They will have your. They can look up your location by precinct. They will tell you where your caucus at is will be usually different than where you vote at.
Okay.
So don't go to your polling place. Go online and find out. Yeah, go and find out where you're actually caucus, because a lot of caucus had to be moved to a larger location because the turnout is expected to be large, and show up at 6:30 because they lock the doors at 7.
Yes.
So you have to be in line at 6:30. Because in case you have to change your registration, might have to. You can also register to vote at the caucus. You can change your registration, so get there early. It's a large turnout is expected, and
knock that out. We need to be there.
Yes.
Create opportunities for us.
My final thought, then I'll throw it over to you, is this. It's vitally important for, I talk to African Americans all the time, and I think it's vitally important for us to show up, and people of color, right? Hispanics, Native Americans. It's vitally important that people of color, that community shows up, because caucusing gives you the opportunity to also see your neighbors. It gives you that chance to, and then when your presence walks into that room, it signals that you are participating in this process and that your voice wants to be heard as well. And by sitting at home, it signals to them that you do not want to be heard, that your issues do not matter, because you didn't think it was enough for you to show up and actually have it heard, to actually be counted. Like, caucusing is so interesting because you are actually counted. Every single body in that room counts. And
even the undecided, which is a category that Shekinah thinks is silly. But
even the undecided, showing up, your presence actually matters. And so I can't stress it enough. I need you to show up.
Yes.
I need you to participate in this process. Huge shout out to our friend DJ Desir, who is working her butt off to make sure that people show up and participate in this process.
Definitely. So, Iowa caucuses Monday night. Show up by 6:30. Doors are locked at 7. Take this opportunity to truly impact your community and the world around you. We heard from a representative from the Mayor Pete's campaign, Senator Bernie Sanders, U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar. I want you to know that we are an equal opportunity show. We offer up to everyone, and whoever comes is who we chat with.
Yeah, whoever thought it was cool enough for them to be here.
Right. So know that you are important to us, and you are our main audience, and we want to make sure that you have information and are well equipped to participate in the process and why you should do that. Got any questions, comments, concerns? Let us know in the comments below. Huge shout out to Urban City Magazine and our producer and engineer and all the team that it takes to get this going. You are watching the Urban Impact Show, and I am Shekinah Young.
And I'm Rob Johnson.
And I'm Will Sims.
We're not used to the third person yet. I was like, oh, there's another person talking. And we are going to be coming at you next time. Stay tuned.
Happy Black History Month, everybody.
Happy Black History Month, y'all.
Go Caucus tomorrow.
Yes.
Go Chiefs.
49ers going to win.